What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Kelvin's Garage. So I have a very important video for you today. So something happened on my way home from going out yesterday night. As I was driving home, the battery light kicked in. Okay, so the battery indicator on my center instrument cluster kicked in. And I didn't know what was happening. Is it my battery or is it something else that's malfunctioning? And the weird thing about it is that as I was driving, when I just let the car kind of cruise to a stop, the battery light would turn on. But as soon as I hit the gas pedal and started accelerating, the battery light would turn off momentarily. But when I let off the gas again, it would turn on again. So maybe the battery is bad, maybe it's the alternator. I'm not sure, but we're going to investigate and we're going to fix it. Now, it's very important that you fix this issue as soon as possible, and that is because if the battery goes out, well, you can't really go anywhere, right? I mean, you can't start the car. Let's say the battery is dead, and then you're stuck somewhere at the gas station or somewhere in line at the drive-thru, and you stop your car for a second or for whatever reason, and you can't start your car, and you're basically stranded. So it's very important that you resolve these issues immediately. Now, one of the things that surprises me is that a couple of years ago, I had already replaced the battery and the alternator. Well, maybe the parts were cheap. I don't know. Maybe it's in need of a replacement again. It's been maybe, 3 years or so. But in any case, we're going to investigate and we're going to figure out whether or not it's the battery or the alternator, and then we're going to fix it. Okay, so I just tried turning on my vehicle. I'm at home now. And what happened was that the car wouldn't even start, okay? So this is another reason why whenever you have a battery issue or electrical issue, you should make sure you're at home or somewhere where the car can be fixed. The battery light is on, okay? So earlier when I was driving, the oil light was not on, but the battery light was on. And basically what happened was that it started flashing on and off as I hit the accelerator and let off the accelerator. And just maybe 5 minutes ago, I took the car out for a little cruise. I was gonna actually go and try to buy a new battery before I realized it also could be the alternator, okay? But as I doubled back and came home, I noticed two other lights turning on, and they're not on now, but earlier the airbag light was on. So it showed a icon of a human being with a big airbag puffed up in his face, and that red indicator was also on, and so that started scaring me. Okay, and then the other light that turned on, which was, again, another warning to me that something weird is happening. The ABS, the orange ABS indicator light up here, that also turned on for no apparent reason, just driving back after a 10-minute drive down the road. So they're not on right now. I can't even start the car, and I would show you the icons if I could, but this is a very serious problem and it needs to be addressed immediately. Okay guys, so I got it to do the behavior where when you hit the gas, the accelerator, the battery light goes away. So check it out. See, you see that? So when I hit the accelerator, the battery light actually goes away. So what does this mean? I don't know. Does it mean the alternator is not outputting enough current until I actually step on the gas, and then that kind of briefly gives it enough juice? Or does it mean the battery is not accepting the current, accepting the charge unless I give it enough juice? Not sure, but we're gonna find out pretty soon. Here it goes. So actually I had replaced the alternator about 3 years ago, and I had brought this brand new AC Delco alternator. I put it in, replaced it, and so I've done this before basically. Now, one of the disappointing things is that the alternator only lasted for 3 years. Okay, so this time around I had to ask myself, okay, which alternator should I buy? Should I go to O'Reilly or AutoZone and buy one of those in-store brands, or should I go and buy online again? And so it turns out that the alternators on AutoZone and Napa and O'Reilly, they're pretty expensive these days. They're like $250, and you also have to pay a $40 core charge. So what I did is I just went online again, Since Amazon seems to be pretty good these days, they have next day shipping. I ordered a next day shipping alternator, and actually I bought the exact same one as what I had done before. And you know, you might be wondering, why did I do that, right? Shouldn't have gone with a different brand that may have a longer lifespan. Well, the thing is, based on the reviews I saw of the Duralast and other brands, they even had a lower lifespan than 3 years. So some of the feedback that the alternators had on the website said that maybe they'll die out in a year, or maybe they needed to replace it 2 times within a year and use the warranty. And I didn't want to do that. At least I know with the AC Delco, the one that I bought, I'll get 3 years lifespan out of it. So here it is, the brand new AC Delco alternator that I bought off of Amazon. So it turned out that with Prime, it has a next day shipping option, okay, which was free, and the alternator itself was about $175, which is, you know, pretty reasonable, right? So compared to $250, $240 off of O'Reilly and AutoZone, I would say this is a pretty good deal. If you look here, you know, AC Delco is a trusted brand, but you know, if you just look at the box here, it says, and like all other products these days, made in China. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, but made in China. All right, so hey, you know, it is what it is. Taking the alternator out of the box, we can see we got this pretty beefy unit. Now, one of the things about replacing your alternator or starter and items of that nature is that they're pretty heavy, okay? So you have to really be careful with this thing. So it looks normal, you know, it's not too large, but it is quite a heavy of a component, okay? So just be wary of that when you're trying to manage this, mangle it around the engine bay. You know, it could drop, and be very careful of that, because you definitely don't want to drop this on the floor. You could either crack your floor, or, you know, you definitely don't want to be under the car when working on this and it drops on you. Now, fortunately for the Civic, it's actually a pretty straightforward job. You don't need to go under the car to replace this, and I'm going to show you that in a second. But we'll take a look at this AC Delco alternator. Okay, there it is. There's the part number. Okay, manufactured for AC Delco, Flint, Michigan. Part number is 335-1354. I have this little label on here, which is already falling off, so I'm gonna take that right off. Okay, and we can see here that you know, it's got a new pulley, it's got, you know, new parts, everything. You know, the housing looks pretty clean. One of the things I like to do is kind of inspect the new part before I start taking apart the old one. And the reason why I do that is it gives me an idea of what I'm working with here. Okay, so it looks like, you know, we've got some holes here, right? So there could be some kind of bracket here, right? Maybe or maybe not. Okay, we've got the plug here, right? Electrical plug. We've got the alternator output, okay, and it has a little nut. So there's a new nut on there, right? And we all have all these various mounting points. There's a mounting point here, you know, some kind of mounting point here for a bracket. You know, we have another one here, right? Now, in terms of the main mounting point for the alternator, let me flip it around. But we can see here we've got this huge through hole right here, and that is where the bolt will pass through, and we'll tie in the alternator, and the second one over here. So it might be a good idea to leave your car sitting for a little bit before you work on this, so that you don't burn yourself on the heat shield here, the catalytic converter. Okay, but we can see here we've got the wiring harness, right, leading up to the alternator. The wiring harness connected here, okay, like we saw, the plug. And then we've got the nut over here, right? And then that one is the one that delivers the power. Okay, and over here we've got, on this side, the drive belt for the alternator. Okay, and this is going to be pretty important to keep in mind, because we have to loosen the drive belt. Okay, we have to loosen the drive belt in order to remove the alternator. Basically, we have to loosen the drive belt and then remove all the harnesses and so forth, remove the brackets, and then take off the 2 main bolts and lift this entire thing out of there. Okay, so in terms of tools, all right, so let's take a look at what we need here. So we don't need any special tools for this job. The only thing is to keep your regular set of 10, 12 millimeter wrenches, and also if you want, you can use 10 and 12 socket as well. Okay, 10 and 12 socket. Now, the only thing that we really need to pay attention to for this job is we need a 19mm wrench like this, okay? Not a socket, but a wrench. Okay, and what that is used for is to undo the stress on the belt by moving the pulley out of the way, okay? And the pulley is a very special hydraulic pulley. It's a little bit different from a spring-loaded pulley. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that. Now we need the 19mm wrench because there isn't much clearance next to the that part where you kind of unload the pulley. All right, so this is really the only thing that will clear. Not even a socket will clear. And another thing that will help is a second wrench. Okay, so you might be wondering, what is this second wrench for? All right, now the second wrench is so that you can put some leverage on the 19mm wrench for the pulley. Okay, so I learned this on YouTube, and it was a very useful trick that I needed last time I did this. And basically we have this thing called the 2-wrench trick, and what it is you can basically attach the wrenches in such a way that you can get extra leverage out of it. All right, so you put one wrench on the pulley, and you take the second wrench and you kind of hook it in this manner, okay, so that you can use it as like a breaker bar, an extra breaker bar. A bar won't work because, you know, this is fairly wide, so this little wrench link up here works very well, and it doesn't really matter what this is as long as it's large enough to hook around here in this manner. And we're gonna do this in a little bit. You see I can actually put quite a bit of force here, and as long as the wrenches are strong material and won't break, this is usually very, very effective. Okay, so first things first, we're going to undo the positive terminal on the battery. So we're going to flip up the cap here, and then just take your 10mm and then undo the nut here, and then just take off the positive terminal clamp and just set it aside like so. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to unload the belt. So if you see here, this is where the pulley lever is. Okay, you can see here it's this little metal hex like thing that's popping out on the side. Okay, and you can see there's not much clearance here, so what you're gonna have to do is use a regular wrench like I have here. Now there's a special trick to this, okay, and this is not a nut. All right, I just want to point that out. When I first did this, I thought it was a nut. Okay, it is not a nut, so it doesn't break loose in a traditional manner. It's hydraulically loaded, so what that means is we're going to put this wrench over the nut, okay, and then we are going to put some force on the wrench. And if you just give the wrench a constant force, eventually this lever will slowly move that away. Okay, it'll slowly move that away and then unload the pressure on the belt, and you can slide the belt off. Okay, it's all a little bit tricky, but you'll see what I mean in a second. The point is that this is not a nut. Okay, it's a hydraulic lever that you would just put constant pressure on, and it will slowly move towards the back to unload this belt. Okay, so I'm gonna slip my wrench over this now, like so. Okay, it's over it now. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna attach the second wrench here and do our little double wrench trick. Okay, so we're gonna put our second wrench around here and do our double wrench trick. And if you observe the little lever down below, you'll be able to see that it slowly moves away from me. Okay, here we go, double wrench trick time. Okay, so put constant pressure and you'll see that it slowly moves, ever so slowly moves away from me. Hydraulic tensioner. Okay, put some pressure on the hydraulic tensioner, okay, and push away, and we should be able to see that this slowly unloads. Okay, we can see the belt. You see the belt right here? It's loose. Okay, it's loose, so now we can kind of wiggle it off. Just like so. Okay, all right, belt is off. Okay, now we're going to undo the harness and then take off the mounting brackets and pull this entire thing off. So we'll start by this little harness thing here. Okay, got a little sliding clip here. Okay, just take this off. Okay, and then we've got, you know, this bracket here, 1, 2. Okay, and then we've got this other one right here. We're just going to take that off with the 10mm. Now just go at it with our socket wrench. One of the little tricks I like to do, if you don't want to keep track of all these nuts. So this was a 10mm, okay? And as soon as I am done undoing it, instead of, you know, having a placemat where I've drawn out where each screw goes and so forth, my system of keeping track of nuts and bolts is to just, as soon as I've undone the nut, I just put it right back in its place without fastening the thing it was fastening together. Okay, so if you just screw this right back on, we'll never lose the nut, and we can always figure out where it goes on the new part. Okay, and then we need to undo this little clip here. What will happen is we're going to undo these and undo the main bolt, and we'll be able to pull this out slightly and then undo these two bracket bolts over here. Okay, so let's do this one over here, this bracket. Don't lose the bolts. It's always a pain if you drop it down there, but try not to lose it. Okay, so for this one, okay, and there's a clip right here. If you can, just press really hard. Okay, press really hard and pull off this harness, just like so. Okay, you see there's a boot, okay, and underneath there was the button for this. Okay, press really hard at this point and then pull this out. Another reason why it's good to look at the original or the new part, and we saw that there's a hook right here. That's how we knew to press it over here and pull it out. Okay, you don't want to break these connectors. It's a real pain to fix, and probably you won't end up fixing it. Okay, the next thing is to take off this nut here, the one that supplies the power, and this boot does come off. Okay, so we're going to take the boot off here, and we see underneath there is the nut holding the, essentially the power cable from the alternator to the car. So we're going to take our 10mm, go in there with that, and just undo that one. Okay, it breaks off pretty clean, and we'll be able to just take off this nut fairly easily. Okay, once you've got it broken off, I just use this as like a little screwdriver, and then take the socket, just keep twisting it till it comes off. Okay, and make sure you don't lose it. Although we do have a new one on the new alternator, but try not to lose it. Okay, this should come right off. Like so. Wiggle it out. Ta-da! Okay, and this is the reason why I said disconnect the battery, because you don't want this cable to be knocking against some grounded area. If the battery were still connected and this positive terminal here were floating around, you could cause a spark, okay, if you short out the battery by accidentally touching metal. So don't do that. I mean, disconnect the battery, then undo this. Okay, we're gonna move the harness out of the way. So what we'll do is we'll do the alternator bolts next. Okay, there's one right here, okay, and there's one down below. Okay, down here, and then we're gonna pull the alternator out. And remember, we knew this because when we looked at our new alternator, okay, this is the position that it's in, right? More or less like this. And we know we have the bolt right here and the other one down below right here. Okay, so when trying to remove this, we broke the clip, but no worries, you know, we could always go back and use a cable tie or something, so this is not a big deal. But in any case, we're going to now try to take off the big alternator bolts here and down there. Okay, first things first, we'll do this one. keep on going till it comes all the way out. And voila, this long bolt has come out. Okay, so the other bolt on the alternator is a little bit tricky to get to, and I'm gonna just lower the camera in here so you can see it, but I may not be able to film when I take it off. But you see it's right there, okay? It's right there, right next to where the drive belt is hanging. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna undo it, feel around for it with my socket wrench, and then undo that bolt right there. Okay, once you felt around for that second bolt, use a deep socket or an extension and we can get around it. You see the position of the wrench is right here. Okay, now there's another bolt over here and that's not the one, okay? It's the one deeper in, and that's the one we want to get. Okay, so once we've gotten it, we're just going to undo it. Okay, so I just loosened it and we're just going to unscrew it the rest of the way. Most of it can be done by hand once you've broken the nut loose, broken the bolt loose. Okay, and here it is. Okay, save that. And now I believe the alternator should be free to move. You can see it kind of wiggles. We can kind of take it out at this point. Okay, so I just took it out of its position. Remember, it's still connected over here by this cable here, and I'm just going to tilt it ever so slightly so I can take off these mounting bracket bolts and remove this mounting bracket. Okay, so I don't have to break the second clip on this wire. Okay, and I also have to remove this one down here too. Okay, so just take your 10mm. Take that off. Okay, break them all loose. Okay, break them all loose. Okay. And now we can easily take off these heat shield and harness holding plates. This bolt here, okay, hold on to that. This one here, okay, and you see it comes off right away. Okay, and if you want to do my trick, you can put the bolts right back in where you took them out. And also keep in mind, look at the heat shield, it's got an arrow up. Okay, so that's the orientation. Okay, set that aside. And then we've got this one down below here with the harness on it. And we'll just leave this dangling on the harness, this bracket here. Okay, and then we'll screw that back in, the bolt, so we don't lose it. And now at this point we are completely free floating on the alternator, and we could just pull it out. Okay, whole thing comes out. And where does it go? Right next to the new alternator, okay? And we're gonna transfer the hardware from the old one to the new one. And now you can take a moment to kind of compare the two, make sure that you have the right alternator. This is kind of like your final chance to check. Okay, they do appear to be pretty identical, okay? Here's that mounting point, here's that mounting point. This one has a little more stickers on it, but you can see it is the AC Delco 3351354, the exact same one that I bought to replace it. Okay, and basically all of our screws are where we left them. Okay, so why don't we just put on the new one, okay, just to keep track of it, and then we're going to move the new one into place and reverse the process so that we can install the new one. All right, so I'm just going to transfer all the bolts from here to here so I know where they go. And then put the heat shield on, put that little bracket we just undid on, and then tighten the mounting bolts for the alternator. Just a little bit of procedural stuff to keep track of what we're doing. This is not completely necessary, but if you're meticulous like me, this kind of methodology will pay dividends. Okay, you'll never lose a bolt. Okay, so this one goes here. Just put it in slightly so that you don't lose track of it. You don't really need to screw it in completely. We've got this one over here, which goes in over here. Okay, got that. Okay, if we forgot anything, now's a good time to double check. Okay, doesn't look like we did, and looks like we are pretty much good to go on the new one, right? So let's take a look here. Nothing missing. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Now the only thing is the little nut for the actual cable, and we can just take that out now so that when we put the cable on, we don't have to do it in the car. Now if we check out the gaping hole, which was left behind by the alternator, we can see that it's a pretty sizable cavity in here. Okay, we've got this little bracket here. We can get a better look of that mounting point. It was right here, okay? And then the other one was up here. All right, and so we're just gonna situate the alternator, let it rest right in this cavity here, attach this bracket, and attach the other heat shield bracket, and then go from there. Reverse of the removal. Situate the new one. Okay, and remember, before we actually fasten it down, we want to put that little harness back here. So we'll undo this one right here. Okay, we're gonna put this little bracket back on here. Okay, since we're kind of in the vicinity. Alright, that just goes just like that. Okay, and then we're gonna put the heat shield back up here on these two. Hand tighten these, and this one you can kind of hand tighten this one too, and you'll just give it a tiny bit of torque, not too much. Okay, not too much. This is just a bracket. Okay, you can even just use your good old normal wrench, give it a little bit of torque. 10 millimeter. Okay, that's one. Okay, and here's the other one. Two. Okay, maybe a little bit more torque. Okay, and then we got the one down below. Give that a little bit of torque. Okay, and that works for us. Now move the entire alternator into place. Now if the alternator is a cheap brand, sometimes it could be hard to get around this mounting point here, this one right here. Okay, sometimes it could be hard to get around that. Okay, but hopefully it's not too bad. The AC Delco fit fine previously, so it might fit fine here as well. okay? But we're gonna just try to manipulate this so it slips right over, like so, okay? And there was no issue there, right? So you see, there was no issue here at all. Okay, there's plenty of clearance, right? In fact, there's a little bit too much clearance. So what I'll do now is I'm gonna string this through with the bolt. Okay, let's string this through with the bolt right now so that it kind of holds it into position. Okay, see, strung it through. Strung it through, okay, and just kind of loosely screw it in for now. Make sure it's in position. All right, and then I'm gonna hand screw in the bolt which was down below. Okay, so the screw which was down below, I think this angle we can kind of see where it goes. Okay, you see right down here. I'm just gonna hand screw it in so that it fits into place, into position. Okay, you can see it right there. So I'm just gonna wiggle and jiggle it until I get this bolt threaded where it's supposed to be. Okay, so I got it to grab now, and tightening it should be no problem at all. Okay, so the bolt has grabbed, and I'm gonna grab my ratchet now to make things a little bit easier. Okay, so we're gonna get our ratchet in here and just kind of feel around for that bolt, and once we get it on, it should just grab. Okay, and I felt it, and we're just gonna tighten it up. Okay, we're sufficiently tightened up this lower one, and now we're gonna go back to the upper one and tighten that up too. Tighten up the upper bolt so that this thing basically squeezes this point here, and we'll be ready for the harnesses and finally the drive belt. Okay, you'll know it's tight when you see that little, there's like some kind of bushing in there, and when that gets pulled towards this metal metal piece off of the engine block, when it gets pulled towards that, you'll know that this has been torqued down properly and the thing is pretty tight. Okay, so now we're just going to do the simple stuff here. We're going to put this harness back. Okay, then we're gonna put our little bracket back here. Okay, remember this guy? So that goes right there, just like so. Just a little bit of torque. All right. Okay, it's solid. We're gonna bring our harness back. Remember, we lifted up here, so we're gonna bring it back. Snap that into place. Okay, and we're gonna now plug this guy in. Okay, we're gonna plug this guy in. Okay, that one, try to put it in solidly. There is a little bit of a click, but it may be more muted. Okay, and then finally we're gonna do this one. So just fit it over the screw inside. All right. Okay, and then go at it with the 10mm. Okay, we had our new nut. So just put that on there. Okay, screw it in. All right, and give it a little bit of torque. Just a little bit. then voila. Okay, put the boot back on. Okay, that's to prevent moisture from getting on this. We don't want this to corrode or anything like that. Likewise with this one. Okay, and now we have to do the pulley. The final thing is the pulley. Okay, but since we mastered the art of the pulley, this should not be difficult. Okay, so one thing that could have happened when you were doing all this work is that the belt could have kind of slipped off even more, all right? And that's okay, okay? So just remember to put it back into position, okay? And kind of get it into this position where we're almost able to get it over this alternator pulley, but cannot, okay? And this is where we want to be. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to loosen the tensioner so that we can move the belt over the alternator. All right, so we did this earlier to take the belt off. Now we definitely need to do this to put the belt back on. Okay, so just kind of have it in this position, and then work on that tensioner lever. Okay, work on the tensioner lever, push it back that way so that you can string this belt over the alternator. And really it's just a game of skill in the end. Okay, so I am going to restore my little double wrench methodology by putting the 19mm over the tensioner. Okay, like so. I'm going to put some tension on the belt so it's not free floating. Game of skill, if you will. Okay, so it looks like we have the belt where it's supposed to be. Okay, and we are just barely over this area. Okay, not even close to where it needs to be, right? But that's okay, because we are now going to do the double wrench trick to undo the stress on the hydraulic tensioner and get it to move. So we're going to get it to move. Alright, so we've got the wrench 19mm over the lever. We're going to set up for the double wrench trick again, okay, like so. Okay, and then we are going to move the hydraulic tensioner away from us. Okay, move it away. Slowly but surely, move it away. Remember, it's hydraulic, so you have to put constant pressure on it, and it will slowly move away. Put some pressure on it. It's moving away now. I feel it. It's moving quite a bit, actually. And it should be enough to now slip the belt over the alternator pulley, like so. Okay, see that? We did it. I know it's hard to see because of this hose here, but we moved the tensioner away. Okay, and that gave us enough slack to put the belt over the alternator pulley. Now I'm just going to let go of the hydraulic tensioner, and everything should be in place. And it now appears that we are done. Okay, we're done for the alternator install. All right, now the only thing we have left to do is to put the battery back on, and we're gonna see if this fixed our charging issue. So we'll just put this back on. Okay, tighten up this little guy. Be very careful when you tighten up this one. Do not let the end of the wrench touch any part of the body, or you'll get a spark. Okay, you're tightening the positive terminal, so this whole thing has a positive voltage on it. Do not let it touch the body when you're tightening this. Okay, just a little bit of torque and we're good to go there. And finally, we have arrived at the moment of truth. Let's see if our battery indicator light has turned off. We'll start the engine. Here we go. And the battery indicator light is off. Okay, fantastic news. You see, the battery indicator light is off, and we have fixed our charging issue. Okay, so it looks like that was the problem. Alternator was going out after 3 years, and all it needed was a new alternator. As for this little guy here, well, we broke the cable clip earlier, so you know, we can just leave it. It's not a big deal. If you want, you can take out this piece here, or you can just strap it in. Just find yourself a cable tie and just strap it in. So, and just strap it on in. Strap it in, strap it in. You don't even have to take off the old piece. Just like that. And snip snip. There you go. Now, one of the things I liked about buying this alternator on Amazon, and that it's a new alternator and not remanufactured, is that I don't have to return the core, okay? I get to keep this. Not that I would really need it, but the old one, I get to keep it. You know, I don't have to send it back and do all this, you know, stuff and take it back to the store. And best of all, I don't have to pay the $40 to $50 core charge. Okay, oftentimes when you buy a remanufactured part, you have to you get charged an additional fee, 40 to 50 bucks for this, and then you have to give them the old one back so they can remanufacture it for the next customer. Now, why the heck do I want to do that, right? So, you know, I don't have to ship this back, I don't have to do anything. Okay, I can just use this, I can take it apart, I can throw it in the trash, whatever. Okay, so that's why I liked buying this new AC Delco alternator. As for the old one, well, we could have done all sorts of interesting things with it, but we don't have time for that. So we're just gonna chuck it at our local scrap yard. Okay, so we're at the local waste removal, and here's the scrap metal bin. We're just gonna leave it in there. Goodbye, alternator. What the heck? Oh, I forgot the stupid radio code. I disconnected the battery, and now the radio has reset, and I need to enter in this stupid code. Stay tuned next time on Kelvin's Garage.